There's a lot of different reasons to make an album. Here in my quadrant thingy, I have the goals for you as an artist, but also the goals for the music, and also external goals. So the stuff which is as a result of releasing the album, and then the internal stuff to the music. So if we think about the reason that we want to make an album in terms of the external situation, the result of the result, in other words, the result is the album. The result of the result is what happens when we release the album. This is what I'm calling goal. What do you actually want to get out of releasing the album? It might be that you want to get signed to a label. It might be that you want to grow your audience. It might be that you want to make some money. Although if you want to make money, there are simpler ways of making money than making albums. So I'm not going to lie. If you're here to make money, maybe you want to think about a different way of making money as well. I'm not saying you won't make money, because I coach people who do make a lot of money from making albums. But it's not, I wouldn't do it for the reasons of making money. Right? So again, it is possible. It's just not necessarily a good reason why. I used to make music in order to make money. That was my number one thing. And I found that as an artist, it corrupted my process. It's really important to separate, and actually talking about Rick Rubin, he talks about this as well, to separate the result of the result from the actual making of the music. And that's one of the reasons I've made this quadrant for us to think about. But once you've actually identified that goal, don't think about it when you're making the album, because thinking about that when you're making the album, it's a very dangerous road to go down. You start doing things for delusional reasons. Oh, well, this person, I think they might like it. And if I don't, maybe I should change it. You start kind of mind reading people who you don't know. That's not a good way of making music. You want to actually listen to what's happening in the music and what you're trying to express, which we will get onto. But the goal is obviously important. Getting a result from a result informs the process. It's a necessary part of the process, but it can't be the only reason why we make music. I am an example of somebody for whom that became the case, and my music career was destroyed by just focusing on this area. Then the external result for the music, we're talking about function. The way to think about function is who would want to listen to this, in what context, for what reason. Now you might say, well, I want everyone to like my music. Let's just take Taylor Swift. Now I'm guessing, looking at these faces, we might not have any Taylor Swift fans here. Is anyone a Swiftie? If they are, I bet you they're going to be too embarrassed to put their hands up. So I'm going to put my hand up. All right. I'm a Swiftie. All right. All right. So the most, like the global phenomenon that is Taylor Swift, in a group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people, there's only one who likes the biggest artist in the world right now. You could choose anyone else. Yeah. Someone much cooler. It doesn't matter how big they are. Most people in the world do not like their music. In fact, many people actively hate their music. I mean, I was one of these people, by the way, when I was in the world of house and techno. Yeah, I was very, very snobbish about, I don't like that kind of music. But now I get to talk to all kinds of different artists making all kinds of music. And almost everybody looks down on everyone else. It's kind of ridiculous. It's like, pop person going, yeah, well, these underground artists, they don't really, they don't know how to write a song. And then the underground artists going, oh, these pop people are all like, selling out. And I'm like, at the end of the day, we're all musicians making music and doing what we want to do. Yeah, I mean, of course, there are some people who are doing it possibly for the wrong reasons, but in general, it's this tribal thing that we've got going on, right? But anyway, the point being, I'm going off on one. The point being that not everybody is going to like your music. So it is useful to have an eye, again, not when you're making the music so much, but beforehand, on who is the person, who is the center of the bullseye for the type of person who might like to listen to my music. Why might they want to listen to my music, and in what context are they going to be listening to it in? So for example, with my music, one of the reasons I make albums is because I want to help other people make albums. It's not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons. So for people like you. So what I do is I release my albums on my podcast. That actually informs what my albums are like. So I tend to put lots of Easter eggs in there and little kind of musical things because I want to give people ideas that they can use in their own music. Not specific musical ideas, but ways of thinking about how they might fulfill the purpose. Little things like that. I mean, it's not like I'm going, oh, I'm going to put this crap part in there because then I can talk about it being crap on a workshop. It's not like that. It's just the way that I approach my music is that I think about it for people like you. I want it to be inspiring in some way. I possibly go much harder into uniqueness because I want to inspire people to be unique. My personal opinion is that there is a problem in music where we're just getting similar versions of the same thing over and over again. So I want to do my bit to try and say, look, there's another way of doing it. You can just do your own thing. So that's another thing that I'm doing. At this stage, again, not when you're making music, but beforehand. All right, so this is the center of the bullseye for me. It's not that you're actually making it for them, but it will inform how you set things up and what you actually do. What's interesting is on this side of the quadrant thingy, a lot of people, including me in my previous career, pretty much only focus on this side of the quadrant. With the function side of things, it's often about the technical stuff. Let's say you make dance music and it needs to be played in a club. Well, then that means you've got to be really careful about what you do in terms of for instance, the kick and the bass. That's a functional element. To make it actually work in that context, that becomes very important. And we are going to focus on the function of your music towards the end of the program. But it's not the only thing that is important in a piece of music. Function, while being important, is in service of something else. And we will get to that in a second. But first, let's talk about the internal reasons that you want to make music for you, as an artist. You want to do the thing to grow the thing. Quite often, people will say to me when I'm encouraging them to do an album or something, they'll go, I don't have the skills to make an album, or I don't have the time to make an album. I have found that if I say I'm going to make an album, lo and behold, the time starts showing up. If I commit to it, especially in a group, the time starts showing up. And also, in order to make the album good, I have to grow my skills. If you compare what I'm doing now, whether you like it or hate what I'm doing, but if you actually compare the quality of, for instance, the singing now to the quality of the singing on my first album, it's a lot better, thank goodness. Not hard, it's a lot better. I no longer use auto-tune like I did on the first album, which I kind of had to. It's quite funny. On the first album I did with singing, people are like, oh, we should have used less auto-tune. And I'm like, no, you don't. Trust me, you do not wish I use less auto-tune. It's there for a reason. I have grown my skills by making albums. So one of the things that you want to think about when you're setting up, for instance, your template for making these ideas is what kind of artist do I want to become? What direction do I want to grow in? Because that also wants to inform the kind of album that you make, the kind of instruments that you use, the kind of things that you do. If you were to be a fictionalized person that could do everything brilliantly, you'd probably end up making lift music, like brilliant elevator music. In fact, there's a lot of that around. So you want to be a musician who's really great at some things and just completely ignores others. A spiky musician. This idea of a well-rounded musician just puts the fear. I'm just like, oh God, that sounds horrible. I don't want to be a well-rounded musician. I want to be a really spiky musician, a sharp musician. I want to poke through to get people to notice. A well-rounded musician sounds very, very boring to me. What do you want to be great at? What, if you could, would you become the world's best at? And what would you ignore? So how do you want to grow? And then possibly the most importantly, although I think growth and this one are equally important, but the reason why you're making it an album internal to the music, we're talking about purpose. What is this album and the tracks on it, what are they expressing? Now, there's a lot of people, me included, when I made instrumental music, that they just don't think about this. You can just ignore purpose. It's obvious when you're making music with lyrics, but I actually started talking about purpose before I started making music with lyrics. Why did I do that? Because it's a lot easier to make music with purpose. I am expressing this emotion, or I'm expressing this story, I'm expressing this situation. I could probably break a plank of wood in half with my head. But it would be quite hard and painful, where it'd be easier and less painful if I used a saw. Purpose is the saw. Your head is without purpose. So when you're making music with purpose, it actually gives you a decision that you have made outside of your changing thoughts and feelings about the music. Because if I was to say to you, which bass line is better? And I play to you two bass lines, how are you going to make that judgment? You know, if I was to say, I'm going to make a piece of music that expresses the first time I met my now wife, am I going to put a screaming acid line with augmented fourths in it? No, I'm only going to do that when I express our marriage now. So it actually tells you what to do. This is why I say that purpose is a saw and no purpose is your head with breaking that plank of wood. You've made a decision that helps you make other decisions. This is why I would encourage you, even if you're making instrumental music and you're not interested in lyrics, if you know what emotion this piece is expressing and the kind of shape of it, it's going to help you so much. Trust me, I've done it both ways, and purpose is just very, very useful. So those are the things to be thinking about, because doing this work now will really help you set it up for success. This is something that we don't get clear enough on in general. It's pretty much the most important question. Why are you making an album? Why do you want to do it?